As we now know, contrary to the advice given in writing as well as verbally by the company yesterday, the doctor wasn't trained, and so as a consequence of that, there will be a medical referral in relation to the doctor.
Tonight, week one of Australia's vaccine rollout complete, but it's been marred by missed deadlines, cancellations and an overdosing incident. We'll have the latest on the race to get the jab right across the world. It's Sunday the 28th of February. You're watching 6 News. Also tonight,
stop the political BS.
More anger grows over the government's handling of Brittany Higgins' rape allegations as the AFP warns the PM that a delay in reporting crimes risks police investigations and could see reoffending. And later, with more than 500,000 Americans dead from COVID-19, US President Joe Biden is urging people not to become numb to the grim statistic, as many ask, when will life return to normal?
As a nation, we can't accept such a cruel fate. While we've been fighting this pandemic for so long, we have to resist becoming numb to the sorrow.
Good evening. Week one of Australia's vaccine rollout has been marred by missed deadlines, cancellations and an overdosing incident at a Brisbane aged care home. Scott Morrison is assuring Australians that any issues are being ironed out, with one contractor in particular currently on notice. Tonight we'll take a look at the mishaps and successes that have plagued vaccine rollouts right around the world. Chief reporter Connor Alforque has the details.
Week one of Australia's vaccine rollout. In a word,
major bungle.
A major bungle.
Vaccine bungle.
Serious breach.
Delays, overdoses and disposals raising questions about the Commonwealth's vaccine program amid fears public confidence has taken a hit. Since the program was launched exactly 1 week ago, tens of thousands of doses have been administered. Aged care residents and vulnerable frontline workers were the first to roll up their sleeve. The biggest vaccine botching of the week happened at this Brisbane aged care home, where 2 elderly patients were given 4 times the correct dosage of the Pfizer vaccine. The doctor behind the overdose was only handed training just hours before he was due to administer the jab. And revelations tonight, that same doctor was previously sanctioned over inappropriate prescriptions for medicinal cannabis. He's since been stood down, and the elderly residents at the centre of the bungle have reported no adverse side effects. A local bungle with national consequence. The Healthcare Australia boss stood down after reportedly lying to the government about the Brisbane doctor's training.
The company has had the book thrown at it by Professor Brendan Murphy as secretary.
The incident putting the rollout behind schedule, with many aged care homes having their V-days postponed. In Melbourne, confirmation that an aged care home received excess vials. 125 doses had to be thrown out. The temperature they were stored at couldn't be verified. But Scott Morrison is defending the vaccine program. Mishaps, he says, are to be expected.
You'd expect that with any vaccination program of this scale. And so where things don't go completely to plan, they're quickly addressed, as you've seen happen this week.
The World Health Organization estimates that more than half of all vaccines are thrown away because they are mishandled, unclaimed or expired. COVID vaccine overdoses have also occurred in central Israel and Germany, despite some mistakenly receiving up to 5 doses. Many only reported flu-like symptoms. So far, more than 230 million COVID vaccine doses have been administered across 92 countries. While it could take 5 years for 75% of the global population to be vaccinated, already we're seeing positive signs. Global coronavirus infections have fallen by 16% in a week, and in several countries the death toll and rate of hospitalisation has also declined, according to the WHO.
The early data coming out of the United Kingdom and Israel is more positive than we'd hoped.
As Australia's rollout rolls on, Connor Alforque, 6 News.
It may be 11 years away, but already excitement is building with the International Olympics Committee naming Brisbane as a preferred candidate to host the 2032 Olympic Games. The IOC will now enter targeted dialogue with Brisbane's bid committee and the Australian Olympic Committee. Government support, great weather and venues, and the country's past experience with hosting high-level sporting events all reportedly contributed to their decision. Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk says a Brisbane Olympics would be cost neutral with up to 90% of the required venues already in place. While it's not yet a done deal, the news puts Brisbane in the box seat over Doha, Budapest, Istanbul, Jakarta, New Delhi and St Petersburg. German officials have labelled the decision non-transparent and arbitrary. Brisbane's bid will be voted on as early as the Tokyo Olympics. The city will need 50% of the vote plus one in order for a local 2032 Games to come to fruition. Australian Olympic President John Coates says he's confident he can get those numbers. Victoria has entered day 2 of eased coronavirus restrictions, with masks now only mandatory in high-risk settings and up to 100 people are allowed to gather outdoors. But despite the last lockdown only lasting 5 days, many businesses say they're struggling because of it and have voiced their frustration to the Andrews government. Reporter Lincoln Holmes has the story.
As Victoria emerges from its third coronavirus lockdown, frustration is building against the Andrews government.
Scare people to death, close businesses because they don't have confidence in their own abilities to track and trace.
Dee Kester is co-founder of the Hardware Society, one of the CBD's most popular cafes. Earlier this week, she revealed that their original location would be closing down due to the impacts of the third lockdown.
There's no way that we could continue just with the seesaw that's the current state government.
On Instagram, Kessa said that her sales on Monday were down by nearly $10,000 less than usual. She added that many other hospitality businesses are suffering the same fate. The original cafe in Hardware Lane opened almost 12 years ago, and in 2019 another version of the cafe was opened in Catherine Place, which will remain open. Today is day 2 of the eased restrictions across Victoria, with the state returning to its COVID-safe summer restrictions which were put in place around Christmas time. Masks are only mandatory in high-risk settings such as shopping centres and large shops, and 75% of public and private sector workers are now able to return to the office. But despite this, many people are worried about the possibility of more lockdowns throughout 2021.
I think everyone's concerned about future lockdowns. I mean, the federal government's been very slow on rolling out a vaccine, and that obviously impacts at this level when we can't have any certainty around opening and closing.
Lincoln Holmes, 6 News.
Australia has been refriended, with Facebook backflipping on its ban of news content. The social media giant is now allowing publishers to post, while others can now share links from major news websites. In a statement, Facebook said that they are now satisfied that the Australian government has quote-unquote agreed to a number of changes and guarantees that address our core concerns. And here at 6 News, we are now able to post again, despite our previous posts never being wiped. We just couldn't post at all, so make sure you are following us on Facebook. He's the controversial anti-vaxxer and climate change denier who this week sensationally quit the Liberal Party to join the crossbench. Now independent MP Craig Kelly insists the decision to resign was his own, saying he was following his conscience and did not want to be a distraction to the federal government. The move comes just weeks after he received a reported dressing down from PM Scott Morrison after spruiking unproven treatments for COVID-19 on Facebook. With the government now occupying just 75 seats, excluding Speaker Tony Smith, Kelly's resignation means Morrison's majority in the House of Representatives has been lost. But Craig Kelly has still vowed to back the coalition on matters of supply and confidence and all policies from the 2019 election. He has also now reportedly got plans to resume a controversial campaign on Facebook. And meanwhile, anger is growing over the federal government's handling of former staff of Brittany Higgins' rape allegations, as more and more women claim they've experienced harassment inside political circles at Parliament House. The Australian Federal Police has now warned MPs and the Prime Minister that a delay in reporting crimes risks police investigations and could potentially see reoffending. Senior reporter Darby Travers has the latest.
Just over a week since her claims became public, former Liberal staffer Brittany Higgins has made a formal complaint to the AFP about her alleged rape in March of 2019. Higgins alleges she was sexually assaulted by a senior male colleague inside Defence Minister Linda Reynolds' office 2 years ago, and originally met with police shortly after the incident but asked officers not to pursue an investigation. It came as the AFP were notified of a letter sent to Scott Morrison detailing an alleged historical rape by a cabinet minister in the federal government, which reportedly occurred in 1988 before the accused man entered politics. The PM, meanwhile, has continued to face scrutiny over his response to the allegations, accused of victim blaming and having a failed response to at least 4 women making allegations against the same senior male colleague. Morrison has also ordered an internal investigation into who in his office knew about the allegations and when. And if this story has raised any concerns for you, contact 1-800-RESPECT.
And staying with this story, Rob McKnight, the co-host of the And Rob and Robbo show, has slammed Prime Minister Scott Morrison over his handling of the allegations. Take a look at some of what he had to say.
Stop the political BS. Do not say that you care about this young lady and you care about what is happening when reports are suggesting, can we see that slide please, Amanda? Reports are suggesting that the PM's own office is briefing journalists behind the scenes negative stories about Brittany Higgins and her partner. The word is that certain journalists are being given this dirt file. The people in question I have spoken to and can confirm they have had to leave Canberra. They have had to give up their jobs because of the pressure that they have been getting from the government. So do not say that you want to find out what happened. Do not say that you give 2 flying Fs about these people and the lives that have been destroyed. You don't. From the get-go, this was all about covering your asses, making sure you didn't have a scandal. Even in question time, the Prime Minister has stood there and said, this isn't just a Liberal problem, this is on both sides. Do you want us to go down that path? It was almost a threat to the Labor Party that if you push us on this issue, we will find dirt. This was on the public record. The games need to stop, Prime Minister. You need to wear the crap that has happened. You need to take responsibility and you need to lead by example. Don't give us the Scotty from marketing. People's lives are being destroyed. A young lady couldn't speak for 2 years because she feared what you people would do to her. And now that she has spoken up, they have lost everything.
The federal government has been urged to take more action against right-wing extremism after a man with a swastika painted on his forehead allegedly attacked an Aboriginal woman with a flamethrower. Labor spokeswoman for Indigenous Australians Linda Burney said that it was quote-unquote another instance of a disconcerting trend in right-wing extremism and white supremacy in Australia, and added that we cannot brush this aside or be complacent. In a submission to the Federal Parliament's Joint Committee on Intelligence and Security, ASIO has said that the threat from right-wing extremists in Australia has increased, particularly since the 2019 Christchurch massacre, but denied that left-wing extremism posed a major threat. WA police alleged that the man yelled racial obscenities at the woman before trying to burn her using a can of deodorant, and a lighter as a makeshift flamethrower. It's been confirmed that this year's Anzac Day commemorations will go ahead as normal in Queensland, with no restrictions on any outdoor events. Anastasia Palaszczuk has revealed that marches and dawn services won't be affected, with the state's Chief Health Officer Jeanette Young also confirming that there will be no requirement for people to wear masks. The Premier has encouraged people to turn out in big numbers for Anzac Day services, with Queensland RSL President Tony Ferris saying he was delighted by the news. It's also been expected that driveway dawn services will return nationwide this year, with restrictions on large gatherings still in place across a number of states. WA's opposition leader Zach Kirkup has conceded 2 weeks out from the state's election. Kirkup told the West Australian that he must accept 2021 is not his time to win an election, but he's still vowing to keep fighting. It came as the latest news poll showed that Mark McGowan's Labor Party is currently ahead of the opposition by a 68-32 margin, and if those same numbers were reflected on election day, the Liberals would effectively be wiped from Parliament, with losses more than likely including Kirkup himself, who holds his seat south of Perth by a less than 1% margin. And despite the results almost seeming certain at this stage, I can promise you we will still have special coverage of WA's election on March 13 with our partners at WAMN News. Overseas now, in UK, Prime Minister Boris Johnson has outlined a roadmap out of England's coronavirus lockdown, but some restrictions are set to stay until at least late June. The four-step plan focuses on outdoor socialising and mixing to slowly remove England from the national lockdown it has been in since January 2. Under the plan, the stay-at-home order will end on March 29, which is weeks after children have returned to school. It also assumes that new variants of COVID-19 will not change the government's assessment of the risks of easing restrictions. This only applies to England, however, with Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland all implementing their own plans for unlocking restrictions. The UK has currently seen more than 120,000 COVID-19 related deaths, the highest death toll in all of Europe. Authorities in Guinea are in a race against time to limit the spread of an Ebola outbreak after several infections of the disease were detected in the country's southern region last week. The West African country declared an Ebola epidemic 2 weeks after an infected person attended the funeral of a nurse and later showed symptoms of the disease. Neighbouring countries are also on high alert to avoid a repeat of the previous outbreak that killed more than 11,000 people across a total of 3 countries. At least 3 people have now died, with thousands of Ebola vaccines from the WHO now arriving in Guinea. China's government is celebrating President Xi Jinping's quote-unquote complete victory in the country's campaign to eradicate rural poverty. The government says that China has invested $310 billion in fighting poverty over the past 8 years, but some experts say China has set a low bar in its definition of poverty, with the country still using standards applied to some of the world's poorest nations. State media, quite predictably, has said that Xi Jinping has quote-unquote stood at the strategic height of a building a well-off society in an all-round way and realising the Chinese dream of the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. Now, that same report by the party's newspaper People's Daily refers to Xi by his full name and title as party leader 121 times, according to the ABC. And meanwhile, another Chinese state-run news outlet, the Global Times, has accused Australia of being part of an axis of white supremacy because of our alliance with Canada, New Zealand, the UK and the US in intelligence, adding that, quote, they have formed a US-centred, racist and mafia-styled community, willfully and arrogantly provoking China and trying to consolidate as all gangsters do. German police commissioner has been charged with sharing images of Adolf Hitler as well as images that convey a quote-unquote hostility towards people with dark skin and Muslims. Prosecutors have filed sedition and hate speech charges against the 46-year-old who allegedly shared pictures of the former Führer performing the Nazi salute with 30 others, including fellow police officers, on WhatsApp. The Domestic Intelligence Agency of the country said in a report last year that less than 1% of Germany's police force, security agencies and military personnel have far-right worldviews and sympathies, with authorities facing accusations now of not doing enough to unearth potentially violent nationalists in their ranks. The suspect's brother, as well as the third police commissioner, are also set to face charges for similar matters. Well, the US hit another shocking milestone in its fight against the pandemic this week, with 500,000 people dead from COVID-19. President Joe Biden has urged people not to become numb to the grim statistic, as many ask, when will life return to normal? US correspondent Jackson Gosnell has more.
Well, Leo, 500,000 Americans are dead due to the coronavirus, and as some states loosen restrictions, others continue to enhance those restrictions. President Biden paid tribute to the 500,000, 500,000 people who have died as a result of this virus. mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, and siblings of people. So very, very tragic that many people have lost their lives due to the coronavirus. And we are now seeing some relief on the way in hopes of helping people to live longer and overcome this disease. We do know that there is the Moderna and Pfizer vaccine, but now Johnson & Johnson will also likely be given emergency use authorization, I should say, by the FDA. So a lot going on over here in America. And again, we do want to remember those 500,000 people killed due to the coronavirus. I'm reporting in the U.S. I'm Jackson Gosnell. Back to you.
And for more on this story, let's bring in former US Senator Donald Betts. Donald, thanks very much for your time tonight. What's your reaction to this latest really grim coronavirus milestone?
Well, I think the days of blaming are a bit over, and we need to finally just get to a solution. I mean, our politics has been so vitriolic over the last few years. It's time that we just get on with it. Find the vaccine, get people vaccinated, and move forward for a brighter future. This time of blaming and pointing fingers is just getting tired. And I think it's time for the nation to come together and just find common sense solutions to our ever-growing problems.
Yeah. Changing pace now when Joe Biden has been accused of having double standards after reopening border facilities to house migrant teenagers, including one that both he and Kamala Harris savaged then President Trump about on the campaign trail. Is this hypocrisy from the US president?
No, I think we just have to figure out what does that look like under the Biden administration. When he opens those facilities, what will those facilities look like? Somewhere you have to house these kids. They're without their parents. So if the Biden facility has proper bedding, 3 meals a day, education services, if he's providing services to these young people, these migrants, then we just have to sit back and look and see what that looks like. Again, we're too quick to jump without all of the facts. And I think it will be done in a more humane manner. Considering that these are young people, they're not in school, they're not having, prior to coming to the United States, they did not have any hope at life, and that's why their parents took the risk of bringing them over the border in the first place. So we just have to sit back and look and see what the president does. His 100 days are not over yet. So after the 100 days, we'll see what he's accomplished, even on the border at this moment.
Yep, and just quickly before we let you go tonight, Ted Cruz is still feeling the heat over his trip to Mexico during Texas's deadly winter storm. Should the senator resign?
Well, either he's going to resign or he's going to fight for his dear life in order to stay in that office. And as the story grows and grows, even Republicans, I'm sure his supporters even, are very upset. Especially, see, there's a thing when one segment of society goes through something and the other segment of society doesn't have to necessarily go through that, it's like you don't understand the pain. But in Texas, everyone understands the pain because they were without water, they were without electricity, groceries were drying up. I mean, it was a mess for Republicans, Democrats, Independents, everyone. And for this senator, this U.S. senator, to feel like he has the privilege of getting on an airplane and going to warm Cancun, Mexico, to wait it out. That is something that he, I think, will regret for the rest of his life. It's almost like you left your constituents on a sinking ship, and you went and saved your life, and now you're trying to backpedal and figure out how you save the few that you left behind. It's too late. Senator Cruz, I would say just resign. You were so concerned about your daughter and your family not having the luxuries of life. Spend some time with them. Now is your time to really watch your daughter grow up. You don't have to serve the people of the great state of Texas anymore. Let someone else do that job.
All right, we'll leave it there. Donald Betts, thanks very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
Alright, well, US authorities are on high alert tonight, with Trump supporters reportedly planning to storm the Capitol once again, this time on March the 4th. The House Armed Services Committee told defense officials that QAnon conspiracy theorists are considering another siege on the Capitol on that day. The reason being is that they believe Donald Trump will return as US president on March the 4th, which is when inaugurations actually took place before 1933. As many as 5,000 members of the National Guard will remain stationed in Washington, D.C. until mid-March. The warning came after the Pentagon and the US Capitol Police were both criticised for their response to the January 6th attack, which left at least 5 people dead. New videos captured the moment an apparent North Korean defector crossed through the DMZ into South Korea. Take a look at this. The grainy vision obtained by South Korean broadcaster TV Chosun shows a dark figure walking under road signs as a bright orange light flashes. Now, the man came onto the shore 3 kilometres inside of South Korea's territory, according to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who have now released a report outlining a series of failures by their own border security troops. It came as an interesting new photo emerged showing a group of Russian diplomats and their family using a hand-pushed rail trolley that is, to leave North Korea earlier this week amid Pyongyang's strict anti-coronavirus measures. Well, she's one of the most infamous TikTok users, but now that vegan teacher has been banned. It's understood that she had her multiple accounts mass reported due to her unpopularity amongst many users because of her ongoing pressure to turn people vegan, including celebrity chef Gordon Ramsay. Hours after the ban, that vegan teacher, whose real name is Katie Karen Dickmeyer, posted a 23-minute video onto her YouTube channel about the ban, saying that she's glad she's no longer a teacher, claiming that a group of teenage boys were what led to her account being banned, and that she was removed because she made them feel guilt about eating meat. Now, the official reason for the ban is still unknown, but it did come just days after she posted a TikTok duetting Minecraft YouTuber Tommy Innit, where she pulled out a cucumber and said that, quote-unquote, nice vegan girls don't want to play with your button, but if you want them to play with your buttons, you'll have to show them your fruits and vegetables. It's serious, shouldn't laugh there, but Tommy is only 16 years old, okay? So many of his fans found that comment distasteful. What are your thoughts on the ban and her comments there? You can let us know in the comment section below. Well, checking tomorrow's forecast right across the country for tomorrow: Brisbane rain, a top of 31, Sydney partly cloudy, 29 degrees, also 29 degrees in the nation's capital and sunny, 21 degrees in Melbourne, 20 in Hobart, 25 in Adelaide, showers in Perth, 26, and in Darwin, more rain, as we always expect, a top of 30 degrees. And just quickly before we go, I was just talking about TikTok in that report there. Now, if you are on the app, make sure you follow us. Yep, we're on the app now. You can find behind-the-scenes content, viral videos, trending stories, breaking news, and so much more. The link to our account is in the description. And that is 6 News for this very busy Sunday evening. You can stay up to date with the latest news by following us on social media. We're back on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and now TikTok. Just search 6 News A to find us. I'm Leonardo Puglisi. Thanks for your company. Good night.